up, guys? How you doing? Right now in the airport in Fort Lauderdale. We're going to be heading out to New York. I'm flying into LaGuardia. On this episode of Cataclysm, we're going to be doing something really cool, something I've never done before. I'm flying over there right now. We're going to be doing interviews with a bunch of different artists. Some of them are actors, some of them are musicians, showing how God has used them, how God is using them, how did they get where they're at right now. So I think it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. Custom cookies.
Not the prettiest today. Not the prettiest.
What's up, guys? How are you doing? This is Devin Perfumo. I have my amazing friend Albert Choi here with me today on another episode of Cataclysm. Today we're going to be talking about Hollywood, the film industry, God using you guys through movies. Some of you guys want to be actors, producers, video editors, and shooters. And Albert is somebody that's a good friend of mine that he's actually making moves in that world, and God is using him. And I just kind of wanted to speak to you guys and encourage you guys and share with you how he got put there, maybe what worked for him, what didn't work for him, and especially being a Christian in that world where there's so many pressures, how he's been able to remain integral and actually influence that space.
Alexa?
Alexa,
Order NyQuil from Prime now.
Vicks NyQuil and Dayquil is $11.99. Would you like to buy it?
Yes. Oh, and Kleenex, please.
Alexa, order more diapers from Prime now.
A 68 count of Huggies Little Snugglers size 3 is $20.12.
Get me some chips from Prime now.
You've previously bought Doritos Nacho Cheese
Get some more
flavored
Pepsi.
Hey, what about the new
tortilla chips.
Fallout?
Let's do it.
Okay, based on your current order, I recommend Campbell's Chicken Noodle Soup.
Yes.
Great, your total is $20.12. Would you like anything else before I send your order?
No.
No, that's okay.
That's all.
Okay, order placed. It's on the way with free 2-hour delivery.
Voice shopping with Alexa just got faster with Prime Now. Tens of thousands of items are available for free 2-hour delivery by asking Alexa to order from Prime Now.
Alexa? Thank you.
No problem.
That space. So Albert, if you could introduce yourself and
Well, hi, I'm Albert. Devin, you've done a great job introducing me. I think most of the stuff that I've worked on is more commercial.
okay.
So I got my start off, it was kind of weird. I did a lot of commercials in the beginning. I mean, I took classes and before that, but mainly the stuff that I've done is commercial. So like you said, I did the Amazon Alexa commercial. It's a fun story there. Then I did like something for a cancer research center that was
Okay.
on YouTube and on TV. Like, it was weird. It was kind of surreal because like I heard the music and I was like, wait, is that the song? And I look on TV, I'm like, oh snap, it's me. So that
No way.
happened. It was kind of weird like that. Then I did what is it? I did FBI, the new NBC CBS show, and so I was there for a hot sec as a doctor, and now I'm doing both on the in front of the camera and behind the camera. So off the camera, I worked as an office PA recently for HBO Succession, and I've also been working as a set PA for First Wives Club, and NBC's New Amsterdam, and the Roger Ailes project, a few other projects.
So I want to just some practical advice before maybe we get into the spiritual aspect of everything. What advice could you give to people out there that maybe, they would like to get their feet wet with that, or they actually feel a calling to that? What would be a practical way to move up, and maybe like what worked for you? I know you shared with me that you worked a lot as an assistant on staff. What advice could you give people?
In a nutshell, I would say it's not about you.
Okay.
It's really not about you. I remember getting into this, and I didn't want to get into this, to be honest with you.
Well,
The only reason that I got into it was I really prayed and I was fasting about it, and I was like, look, God, like, if you want to do this, like, you know, I can't, this has to be in your plan. It's not my plan. I can't have any attachment to the world about this. Or as you know, like in spiritually, it's more like there's nothing in common with me with the world. So I had to kind of make sure, like, is my heart in the right place? Right? It is about you, but it's not about you. You know what I mean? Like, God can use you in that place and in that space, but you have to have something to contribute. And then you have also, you can't think that you have something to contribute. God has to be the one saying, like, you have a gift, and I want you to, and I'm going to push you into this place. So, like, for me, in a nutshell, just to make this really, really clear, I remember when I first started taking acting classes, I was really scared. You know, my parents aren't Christian. They kind of I had a great job as an HR director before. I was making a lot of money before, and I was miserable. But God was saying, like, I want you to do this. I had no idea why. College professor told me back when I was taking a class in acting. She said, I think you can make it in this business. I didn't think so. You know, I was really insecure, like low self-esteem and everything. There were like people who had done Broadway work in my class at the time, or like worked with like.
How old were you when you started doing the acting classes?
I was right out of college, so like 21, 22.
Okay, and you were already working as an HR director and everything.
Exactly. Oh. And so like prior to that in college, I'd taken that class. The professor pulled me aside, and long story short, she said, like, I think you can make it in this business. I kind of laughed in her face, which wasn't good. And honestly, I didn't give her enough credit, right? I didn't know who she was, and when I looked her up, she was a Shakespearean actress who had like a lot of awards and everything. So she knew what she was talking about, and I didn't give that enough salt. That was on me, right? Listen and always be humble, right? You know, after graduating, I'm taking these acting classes because there was just like this desire, this burning desire just gnawing at my heart. And I was like, you know, I'm scared. I don't know if I should do this. And took a class. And after that class, that day, that night, first night of those classes, I was on my way home. And I get on the bus and I'm like, look, God, I'm really scared. And I was just honest with him. I just said, I'm scared. And I threw down a fleece. I said, look, if you want me to do this, it has to be about you. It has to be this. I don't want to make this about my life. I want this to be completely about you. And if this is your will, I need to sign.
Well,
right after that, lady sits down next to me, puts her bag up on the handle of the bus, and then pulls out a script. I was like, okay, that was quick.
That was crazy. Yeah, God answers like that.
So I thought like probably some starving actress, right? Again, immature, arrogant, whatever. And turns out this lady played Cassette on Les Miserables on Broadway for like, you know, a global tour and everything like that. So really, you know, I was kind of flabbergasted. Wow. And so I asked her, what advice do you have? And she says, she thought about it for a good minute, and she said, don't do it for yourself, do it for the work. And I understood what she meant, because look, when you're working on a production like Les Miserables, right, something that really tugs at your heartstrings.
Yeah.
There's something that can really speak into someone's life, and it really contributes to the conversation, and contributes to substance, where people really start thinking about values, thinking about the deeper things in life, right?
Yeah.
Rather than, oh, like, look at me, it's about money, it's about fame, it's about quote-unquote success, right? But, you know, I had to wrestle with those things where God was like, look, who are you really performing for, right? And I'll never forget one of the first visions that God gave me. I was in church, and it wasn't a charismatic church, right? And I remember looking up, and I remember just praising, and then I was back at that time. I was very quiet. I was very, very. I didn't, you know, self-confidence, self-esteem was gone, right? And I was just there praising Him, and God just dropped this vision where I'm on stage, and I just see behind me is God's feet. I just see Him sitting on His throne, and I see His feet, and there's a stage, and there's a mic, and then I'm in this kind of auditorium, and there's like the multitudes of heaven where it's just like going up and up and up and up and up, and I hear God just say, sing, right?
No way.
And I'm there, and I look at God and say, I can't. And He says, come on, sing. And in that loving, fatherly way, you know, where He just, like, you know, a child in that encouraging way, and I just couldn't. but then I noticed that the father wasn't angry. The father just says, okay, we'll wait. Right? God was waiting, and he was cultivating something in me.
What I keep seeing when you're telling me this about your experience with production is that it was kind of like you're definitely like called to it. You know, I've seen where a lot of times people are trying to fight it and push themselves into a door that God never opened for them. And with me, I think that's kind of the theme I see, where it was just like God backing it up, and then your willingness to give it up over and over again. And then God met you every time with an answer and actually a push forward. So I think that's a big sign of knowing that you're called to something, is the willingness and the ability to let go of something and then seeing God give it back to you over and over. You know, a lot of times young people, they're trying to fight for something that God never called them to. And, you know, unfortunately, unless we're willing to die to something, we'll never, you know, maybe we're called to, but unless we die to it, we'll never get the resurrection of it. And that's what I see that in your story, what you've been sharing with me, is that you've died to it over and over, and God just kept giving it back to you with power.
Yeah.
You know?
What I would say on that same note,
Yeah.
it's just kind of like, you know, again, it goes back to it's not about you, right? So another piece of advice that I could add to that is, like, always think of contributing, right? There's a reason. I don't see why more Christians aren't doing well in this industry. And what I mean by that is this, right? Yes, it's a secular industry. Yes, you're going to be working with people who aren't, right, Christian. But Jesus, where did he go to? He went to the people who needed him. He went to the people who weren't necessarily religious or pious in that day. He was hanging out with prostitutes, tax collectors, you know, the scum of society, and then the broken, right? He met with the lepers. He met with these people. Okay, so who are those people, right, today? If you say, oh, Hollywood is full of, you know, this, well, if you're meant to transform the atmosphere, if you're meant to change the atmosphere, what we're doing right now, this conversation, that's what should happen. You build a relationship of trust over time with them. That's how I got my first set PA gig. You know, I was a background actor, and then I was a PA, and there are all these background actors on set. They're like, where's the bathroom, right? And there's a sign right there saying there's the bathroom, and this person has been saying it constantly. So I just looked at them, and I'm like, hey guys, point to the sign, and they're like, oh, and then you just, you know, instruct them. But then I looked at the PA, and I'm like, yo, right?
I mean, day in the life.
And I mean, I just understood her, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, I gave her my card. I said, look, you know, I'm looking to do this, and if you want, you know, here's my resume, take a look, right? And I wasn't going about like overzealous, like, oh my God, pick me, like, here, right, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
it was
like,
just like,
God called me to do this, like you were actually living it. You were actually being hands-on. You were actually supporting and pushing forward the production, and not like making everybody bend down to get you to be part of it. You know?
And even then, like, you, if you're on set, you can tell the people who are about them, and you can tell the people who are about, you know, the whole thing, right? And, you know, she had no reason to hire me. You know, she had no reason, because I didn't have experience, right? I just said, look, if you have any questions, let me know. And when in that world, it's all about reputation.
Mm-hmm.
I have to be able to make you look good. If you recommend me, I have to make sure that you look good, that your reputation is going to be clean. If anything, it's going to be boosted because you recommended me, right?
Yeah.
So I'd say the key is, again, it's not about you. The excellence that I pursue, yes, it'll put me in a good light, but ultimately it's that we all benefit, right? So if you recommend me for a job, well, then I have to make sure that, man, I can do a good job. But if I'm looking for myself, then it's just like, oh, like, I'm just doing it for me, but I don't know anything about set, how to interact on set, right? And so then if my pride is in the way, I'm not going to ask questions, right? If I'm not going to ask questions, I'm not going to get the job done right? And if I am not asking the right questions, right? If I'm not looking, my focus is on other things rather than on getting the job done, right? Well, then it's people can tell, right? And then the doors will open up. After that, after the set PA gigs, 1, 2, 3, sometimes you're in the cold, you're up all night, right? It's not great, but you maintain that energy, you maintain that positivity. Like we talk about that, right? But what I mean by that is like when you're on set, you look at the work and you look at what has to be done, and then you anticipate what is gonna happen next. Like for you,
Yeah, like you can't be dormant. You have to be.
Yeah.
It's not like a passive job. You have to be continuously discerning what's going on around you and.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so like even at when I did that, they saw that. But then the head production assistant, we call it the key PA, she hired me, and I'm gonna say this, her girlfriend, right, needed someone, right? So she recommended me to her girlfriend, who was the office PA, assistant production coordinator for the HBO show. And she hired me. She said, can you send me your resume? Okay, go there. I go there, and then I start doing the work. But, I've been in the office before. I kind of know what has to happen. And then while I'm there, I didn't know why God had called me, And God can use anyone, right? If, I feel, perhaps people are going to say, oh, like he's working with people who are in the homosexual community. I'm like, well, why not? If God can use the mouth of a donkey to speak, right? If God can use a pagan priest to bless Israel, right? If you look in Exodus, and when the Israelites are moving out and they want to curse the Israelites, right? But then Balaam, right? Balaam was supposed to curse the Israelites, but then what ends up happening? God uses him to bless. Yeah. He can't speak curse.
All the wealth.
Yeah, he can't speak curses over them.
That's true.
He speaks blessing.
Wow. Yeah, and if you would have been, but I think also you had understanding of what was going on, and I think what happens, a lot of people, sometimes people they're overly pious, and one of my favorite scriptures actually in the book of Proverbs, it says, "Do not be overly righteous."
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that we don't pursue righteousness. Is that sometimes we could become religious and not knowing that we're called to interact with these people, and if you would have not interacted with them just because maybe they're living a homosexual lifestyle, which a lot of times people are interacting with people that they're addicted to drugs, they're doing other things that are unrighteous. But I guess just the homosexuality aspect, a lot of people, they put that in his own world.
Yeah.
And God could have used you to administer to them, or
that's exactly what happened.
Wow.
While I'm there, I set an example where they the first project I had as an office PA was a very messy back room. They had just thrown everything in there for storage, and they come up to me, they're like, hey, can you clean this up and make it usable? Okay, right? I know tons of other people I've met people on sets where it's just like what am I doing here, right?
Yeah.
You're taking up space, If God's given you that opportunity, or let's just say you've been given an opportunity, let's not even put the God thing there, but even secularly, right? What's appealing to them in their perspective is you've been given an opportunity, right? Are you maximizing their return on investment? When they pick you, right, and they're paying you, right, and you're in that space because you get free food, you get you get visibility, right, you get all that stuff in that industry. So are you making it worthwhile? Right? Are you making their time worthwhile? And so if that's the case, then great. If not, maybe you need to rethink. So going back to the back office, I had to lift boxes, I had to throw stuff out, and it was dusty and everything. Just put on my towel and just went to work. Well, how can I make this easier for them? So I organized it so that they can now go into the back and find what they need. Everything was categorized and organized. That back office thing, right? Cleaning that out. One of the executive producers looked at me and she comes up to me and she said, "You did that? You did that?" I was like, yeah. She's like, it looks amazing back there. Oh my goodness, right? That's an AP. Don't pass off the little things. God loves the little things.
Yeah.
Right? And what does he say? If you're faithful with a little, I'll give you more.
Come on.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you have to mop floors, if you have to scrub toilets, if you have to do that, do it because the Lord is there. Do it because God has given you breath. We don't know. We all want visibility. We want. I guess maybe that's the whole celebrity
that's
culture
crazy.
or whatever.
Yeah.
But the whole idea is not about that. It was never about the visibility. It was never about this. Like Jesus even had people hating him even back in the day, but he did that because he saw the Father's work.
Yeah, and I think you hit up a very big point. I hear, a lot of times in churches we're hearing words that, God is going to take you to the top. He's going to lift you up. And I feel like a lot of Christians, we live in like this fantasy world where like making it is that your name is known, or that, okay, now your name is on blast and then somehow God's going to be glorified because your name is out there. But we don't realize that a lot of times that we need to let go of our sense of entitlement. Yeah. I know that, yes, we are sons and daughters of the living God, and we are entitled to his eternal riches and glory and everything that he died and resurrected for us to get. But if we look at the greats of the faith, they found that they were themselves in their service, and God lifted them up through their service. And even as they were lifted up, they never left the position of being a servant first, a son in God first, but a servant at heart. And I think a lot of times a lot of times people need to die. You had talked about not doing it for yourself, and I think that's one of the things that stops a lot of young people from really being lifted up, is that they're looking so much at how a situation can benefit them. Meanwhile, you're working on set with people that have issues, that are working with a budget, that had to make a decision of 5 other PAs to bring on set, and then you're here like just thinking this is your big cut, but it's their moment also. And I guess in pushing their moment forward, you're really coming up with them. So just how we serve each other in the house of God, the same thing would be a way, and that's how you were able to be lifted up in the world of Hollywood, in the film production. So that's very interesting. That's amazing. I hadn't really thought about that about acting and not for yourself.
Okay, so like I was saying, building off of like whether it's cleaning, scrubbing the floor, right, whether it's doing the mopping or whatever, right, and like you were saying that can breed that sense of entitlement, because because I'm doing this, I need this. No. Yeah. God will fill your cup when he's ready to fill your cup. Let God elevate you.
Wow. Yeah.
Because when you're scrubbing the toilet, the question becomes, how are you doing it? Are you literally, right? Done. I did. Right? Or are you, okay, is everything clean? Right? Is it like, regardless of what it is, if it's God's house, if we believe that everything is God's, are we treating it with that respect?
Well,
right? Are we treating it with that level of awe and care that he wants, that stewardship, right? Because that's where it stems from, right?
You reminded me of a scripture I was reading, and actually last night I was reading about how Jacob, when he was contending for Rachel to be his wife, he had made a deal with Rachel's father that he would work 7 years for Rachel, right? It ended up being 14 years because he got hustled. But if you read it, I was in shock yesterday. Actually, I was looking. I was like, man, because if you read it, it said that Jacob worked the 7 years, and it said, but it felt like a few days because of his love for Rachel. And what I'm seeing is a lot of times, like, if you are really doing this for the love of God, and you're really going out there in an unselfish manner, you will soak in every moment, because you'll realize that your whole purpose, maybe for getting into Hollywood, was to be an assistant and to pray for Tom Cruise as he walked by you into the bathroom, or like, who knows, like maybe to pray for somebody, and it wasn't even about you being on the camera. Maybe it was about you being on the camera, but if you are rushing it, I realize a lot of times people miss the beauty of just walking God, or the beauty of their seasons, because they're rushing to be in another place. We need to stay hungry, and I think hungry and focus on growth and growing. But I think that if we're too focused on growth and not enough on Jesus, we miss the beauty and the presence of God where we're at, So I think that has to be a shift also, that as Christians, and not just acting, but in all aspects of walk, that the climax isn't just being in this place. You're gonna have so many different climaxes and radical experiences on your way up if you learn to enjoy every part of the process and not rush it, and let it really be done in excellence.
And it's not easy. I mean, there are hard times, you're seeing me now. Before all this, bro, like I didn't know where my next meal was coming.
Well,
I had times where God would say, give, empty your bank account, do this. And I'd be like, how am I going to survive? And God was saying, like, me plus nothing equals everything, right?
you said, wait.
God plus everything equals, God plus nothing equals everything.
God plus nothing equals everything.
Yeah.
Write
Just
that
remember
down, guys.
Yeah.
Write that down.
And when God brought me out of my job, when I got fired and you know, it was a legal reason, right? He asked me to do something illegal. Like my CEO asked me to do something illegal, and I said
Okay.
no. When you have the lawyer of the company that you hired, right, for the company saying, "Hey, buddy, as your friend off the record, yeah, you need to leave. You should get out. You should get out of this." So it was pretty bad, right? But
That was
God-
the HR firm.
That
Clarify.
that was the company I was working at.
Okay, that you were an HR director.
Yes.
Okay.
And the lawyer that I hired was telling me that, and you know, God, when I was fasting and praying, I'm like, God, like I'm so nervous, I'm so scared. He said, I'm gonna teach you that me plus nothing equals everything. I was like, man, God, like, yeah, let's do this. You know, this is exciting. And then your finances go, and then people don't believe you. And then people look at you weird. People think that you're crazy. And you really understand that all I have is my identity in God as a child of God and faith in what He has said.
Well,
So are you willing, right, to go through that tribulation, right? Christ, what did He do? He went to the cross for the joy set before Him, right? He had to have faith that God would raise Him up from the dead.
wow.
He had to have faith that his Father, this is the Son of God, and He's on the cross and He says, Abba, Father, why have you forsaken me? Right? If you're forsaken by God, like we look at that as, oh my God, you're pretty much done at that point. But He was willing to go that far. I think how much faith does He have to have that after God forsaken Him to say, God will come up and raise Him up from the dead. He will bring Him out of hell and say, I will raise you up from the dead and I will bring you back to life because of what you have done and how you lived. Right? Jesus, yes, was fully God, but He was also fully man, and He lived as a man. Right?
Wow, so you had to overcome that same fear of death that everybody would have to
Yeah.
battle. Wow.
And so, like you said, are we willing to put that on the altar?